Hey, we're talking about Black Lives Matter, a geeky perspective, up next on Geek Out SA. Do not attempt to adjust your YouTube video. We control the stream. And welcome back to Geek Out SA. It's Friday and we're having fun. And then we're here, and we have Marcellus Coe, the Geekfather.
That's me.
Geekfather.
In the house.
Thanks for joining us.
In your house.
In your house.
We're
in our house too, so
yeah,
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So how have things been going for you?
Things are going all right, I suppose. I mean, living life, LIVIN, baby. Just trying to survive, and not get the Rona.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you're in one of those high-risk categories, so you've been kind of sequestered a lot, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, my life really hasn't changed that much, because before that, I was like, I have no car, and I stay at home most of the time anyway. This has not been much of a change for me, except now it's like I have to wear like a mask all the time.
Right.
When I'm at dialysis, I have to wear a mask the whole time when I didn't before. If I go out somewhere, I wear a mask because you never know. Strangers have got cooties. And they may not be as responsible with their, not getting you sick as they should be. Because people, I don't know, should have been doing this the whole time. Washing your hands and, not touching your face 900 times a second. But people are like, I gotta wash my hands.
The common sense stuff.
Yeah, it's like, well, you should always be washing your hands. What have you been doing?
This is why I don't eat at like potlucks, because
I'm gonna get a black light and make sure you don't have doo-doo hands. I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
Just never
Nasty
know.
some guns, I tell you. People are gross, man. If you let them, people will be filthy dirty.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
People only have maintenance to maintain themselves so that other people won't ridicule them and so that they can touch naughty bits. Because nobody wants to touch somebody that's smelly,
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true.
That's the thing. Just saying, the internet is a crazy place.
It is. Actually, America right now is a crazy place.
Yeah.
America's all messed up so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big old dumpster fire. 2019 was like, hey man, we're like 2019 sucks the dingus, and then 2020, shoved 2019 out of the way. It says, hold my beer, bro.
Yeah.
Just kicked everybody in the face.
I'm a leap year. I got this. We'll start them off with something simple. We're gonna kill somebody. Who died? Oh yeah, Kobe. We're gonna kill Kobe. Kobe. And then it was like, before we even got over that, it's like, hey man, people are getting sick. What's this thing? The coronavirus. Corona is like the beer? Nah, man. The beer would be nice if that's what it was, but nah, this is a disease. You get a virus. You get it, you die.
Mm-hmm.
Painfully. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we're dealing with that. Maybe we got to do that. And then cops stood on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And the world is really mad about it. Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, finally. I like that you ended the sentence with finally. The world is really mad, finally. I
tell you, I'm going to be honest with you, Colleen. Things that happen is that the needle does never move forward without unrest, civil unrest, disobedience, looting and rioting. Usually, unfortunately, is a part of it that comes along. But people don't start to care. Once the white folks start to care about it, then the change happens. But this stuff's been going on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Forever and ever, and I think a new term that I've seen more and more explained better is being anti-racist. Like, before, being that I'm white, I thought, well, I'm not racist, right? I'm not racist, so I'm not part of the problem. But
everybody's been saying I'm a non-racist.
Yeah, I'm a non-racist. But
Yeah.
the new enlightenment is I can't just be a non-racist, and I can't just talk about things in my own classroom and talk about things to my own geeky friends. Like, I need to be more. I need to be anti-racist, right? So I need to be loud all the time.
Being anti-racist comes with a little bit of uncomfortableness. I don't know if that's a word or not, but people didn't talk about it because it made them feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks don't handle conflict and clash in different viewpoints coming together to argue their points, civil discourse. So people just kind of sleek away and like, well, like you said, I'm not doing it. So, what could be the problem? The problem is just it's apathy and it's people being quiet and not doing anything. That's how evil men get to the point where they're at. People who don't do anything. Like, for example, the president. He got elected. He got 25%. So what did they say? Like the 100% of the people that voted, like 25% of them voted for Trump, 25 voted for Clinton, and then 25 the rest of them didn't vote. So it was like this complete apathy, and it's just the way it worked out. He won the states that won him the electoral college, even though he lost the popular vote.
Right, because we all begin to think, I'm just this person, there's nothing I can do. But I think we're now beginning to see that there is something that we can all do.
Yeah. It's
go out and vote for one thing.
Yeah, get out and vote. You exercise your right. Vote for whoever you want to. Just don't. The only wasted vote is one you don't use. Okay, I mean, vote for whatever candidate you want to vote for, and if you don't vote, you come out and start complaining about how things are, be like, shut up, man, because you didn't do anything about it. You didn't use your voice. You didn't use all the stuff that the Constitution tells you you're able to do. You're not doing half of it because you just, oh man, I want to get that new thing or this new thing or this and you're just wasting your time when and then you look up and everything's gone to crap.
Yeah, everything's falling apart.
Like, what happened, man? Like, I swear, Colleen, I don't mean to sound horrible or anything, but y'all Caucasian women need to rein it in because y'all are carrying it all over the place. It's like it's
not my fault that white women are Karens. Okay, I'm not a Karen. I have talked to a couple of managers. Okay, I'm just not.
There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is, you can Karen all you want, but Karen for change, Karen for the right reasons. Like, if you want to talk to the manager, like if you see a situation where there's racism or someone's getting downtrodden, you'd be like, I want to talk to your manager, and then you give that manager, you get up to your neck in that manager's butt about the situation, and not just, there's croutons on my salad, and I told them I didn't want croutons. I specifically said no croutons, and there's croutons here. Can you see the croutons? I am so upset. I want my meal comped. Blah, blah, blah. Like, ugh. Or they just reproach people in the park, and it's like, go back home to where you come from. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. You're like, I was born in San Antonio, you idiot. I mean,
right there. You want me to go to my house? It's right there.
It's right around the corner. I live up the street,
Well, and that's one of the things that I have seen a lot of lately, and of course we see a lot more of it now because people have their cell phones and they can videotape things instantaneously, and so we can see the way people are treating one another, and so it's harder to turn a blind eye to how people are truly behaving because now everybody can see how you're truly behaving.
Right. And I don't know anyone out there who can sit and watch a Jordan video and not have feelings. I mean, I was crying for his mother, and when a dude cries for his mom, it's serious business. Yeah. I was just like,
I just don't see how they stood. Nobody did anything. Like, I just don't. I mean, I understand the people, right? Because you're afraid of what the cops are going to do to you if you intervene. So I get the regular human beings, non-cops, not knowing what to do or how to intervene in that situation. But for the other three officers to just do nothing, I don't understand how you could value another person's life so little that would be acceptable to you.
Well, I mean, the sentence for the cops just kind of stood around. I think it's more of Derek Chauvin was like the training officer, and they were all like new. And when you're new, you don't want to rock the boat or say anything, so they just kind of, whoa, the training officer is doing it. It must be okay, kind of deal. And plus, it's the thin blue line. It's back to blue. It's, you don't rat on your other fellow officers. Well, that's been going on for the longest time. So, and then you got a lot of the unions that are set up, for the police unions around the country. They're set up so officers can't be prosecuted. It's really hard to bring charges against an officer or prosecute them for anything, because I forget the name of the law or whatever, but it's just so people can't just throw lawsuits at cops, and affect their policing.
And the entire the movement, Black Lives Matter, has always, to the outside, to a lot of people, it sounds to a lot of people like it's that only Black Lives Matter, but it's not saying that only Black Lives Matter. It's just making a point that Black lives do matter. So it's not necessarily something that's exclusive.
Yeah, I like to say, people, I say, Black Lives Matter, and they're like, all lives matter. I'm like, yeah, I understand that. I know all lives matter. All lives should matter. What I say is Black Lives Matter as much. Black Lives Matter equally. Okay, because there are people out there who don't think Black Lives Matter for a damn thing.
Yep.
And that's the people they're trying to reach. Like, genetically, there's no difference between you and me. We are like almost 98% the same.
That's right.
That little 2% is the difference. Is like, hair color, eye color, or skin color. Melanin.
And you and I were talking about this before, Marcellus. It's scientific. It's an adaptation. Our skin color, our hair color, our eye color is an adaptation, a genetic mutation based on us moving away from the equator and having different sectors of human beings living in different places where they were going to be prey, and they had to blend in with their surroundings, and so they adapted.
See, she's a teacher. She knows. See, the thing is, basically, being Caucasian, it was a like a instant genetic mutation. It just kind of popped up in one person, and that person, hooked up and got with other people, and the successive generations from that family just got lighter and lighter and lighter.
That's how all.
And they were living in the cradle of civilization, like Africa and the Middle East, where it's near the equator and it's really freaking hot there, and fair skin doesn't do well. So they're like, we got to get out of here, dude. We're burning up. So they moved north. And, north to colder climates, and that's where the Scandinavians and Norwegians, Eastern Europeans, the freaking English, is where they all went. The white folks, they moved to where the sun, it was, the earth tilts. So in seasons, it's further away from the sun, so it's colder. So it's colder climate, better for, that lighter skin, because lighter skin absorbs vitamin D in a cooler climate better than me, because my skin is built to deflect the sun rays. So basically you just like poof, white folks popped up out of nowhere, like blonde hair, blue eyes. It wasn't a thing. We were all brown to start with. We were all shades of brown.
That's what happened to everything that's white. The Arctic fox, the Arctic hare, the polar bear, all brown things that became white due to genetic adaptations that were an accident. And then they were moved into a climate that it was behooving of them, and they reproduced more, and that gene got passed on. That's how genetics works. And the more you know, people.
Yeah. So this movement has been a long time coming.
Yes, it is.
A long time coming. Maybe it was hastened. Well, I don't say maybe. It was hastened by our new president.
I wouldn't say our. He's not mine. He's the president.
He's the president.
But yeah, I think just, after Obama left office and we were like, yay, Obama. People, the other folks were like, no, I don't want that dang, black guy. He's not an American citizen, blah, blah, blah. And then Donald Trump came in and he just kind of reminded them of them. Just free speaking, words come out of his mouth before his brain thinks about them. They just kind of fall out of his face. And he knows those folks aren't going to fact check. I know people, my friends' parents, they don't fact check anything. They watch Fox News like it's going out of style. Like it's the only thing on earth that they need to know about. And it's not news. It's just opinion pieces. And it's a bunch of talking heads just spewing dumbness. And the president watches it. And the stuff he watches word for word, almost verbatim. It comes out in his tweets, and you're like, basically their president, because he has no original ideas of his own, and they're just like, rah, rah, hate the people, keep them, beat them down, get the cops out, and get the military, and jackboot them, kick them out of their cities, and retain order.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. And everyone's like, hey,
he's like
man,
a
no.
toddler having a tantrum. Like, oh, you're not going to do it my way, so I'm going to throw a tantrum, and you're going to do it my way, or I'm going to get the big bullies I know to come and get you.
I've got an army. I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna come back and beat you up.
You're gonna
get
my
and the bikers too.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know, since you're a geek like the rest of us, and it was hard growing up as a geek, just in general in the era that we all grew up, because we were all close to the same age. Mm-hmm. Did you feel that being a black man, it was even harder to be a geek, or did that come into play, like kind of having two strikes against you, basically?
Sometimes it did. I mean, when you're a little kid, and my best friend is like super Caucasian, like he's so white, it's like his sun hits him and he shines. It's great, but I mean, he was like the first kid I met when I moved here. I was 8 years old. He was like 6 or something. And he's like, hey, you want to play? And I'm like, cool. I didn't even think about it. Just to play. He was my friend. Start playing and hanging out with him and hanging around his family. I got introduced to all this nerd stuff. But I mean, the more stuff you get introduced to, the more I realized none of the people in this look like me. None of it is about me. The characters that are in it, like the movies that I love, the black guy is either the cannon fodder that dies at the beginning. He's the sidekick that, is the comic relief. Or, he's the village idiot, or he's just the thug and the criminal, he's the villain. And I'm like, well, we're the heroes. We're the guys, like Superman with the S on his chest. I wanted to see a Superman with an afro. That would have been cool, So, I mean, you see that. Like, I loved X-Men when I was growing up. Read X-Men, like, to death. I'm like, we're all the dark X-Men. I mean, it's a genetic mutation. Nothing but white folks are getting this. Where are the brothers at? And this is, there's Storm. I'm like, okay, well, and got any Latinos in here? What's going on? And basically it's the people that were in charge, or the majority of them were Caucasian, and they wrote what they knew. Mm-hmm. It's hard to write about a minority character when you're not a minority. You don't know. You haven't experienced, the other side of it.
So who was the first black comic hero that you were really happy about?
That I was really happy about? The first one, I was reading comics heavily at the time. The first one I remember is Deathlock. Mm-hmm. And even that, it was like, cool, he's black. And then it was like, oh, he almost killed him. And he's all been remade into a cyborg. And I'm like, oh, great. They see what they happen? They take the brothers and they turn them into cyborgs. Like DC in Cyborg. The dude, like he's got like half his head and the rest of him is a robot. And you're like, damn, man, really? That's some that's BS right there, dude. That's not cool. God, oh man.
That makes sense. I never even actually thought about it, but yeah, when you think about it, there are a lot of black cyborgs, and you're like, hey, wait a minute.
For example,
they're like trying to take the black out of you and put in some metal.
Yeah, they're trying to erase his blackness and just turn him into some nondescript, machine thing that can be ordered around. Like another example, Star Wars. People like, I saw a meme where someone was talking about people don't, they watch Star Wars and they're like, you see the Empire is evil and you want them to be taken down because they're oppressing people and they're a fascist regime, and you're like, yeah, let's do this. Let's take them down. Rebellion, yeah. But when it happens in real life, you're like, I don't understand why those black people are so mad. It's just, I don't get it. And it's like, well, because Luke Skywalker's a white dude. He's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy. He looks like you. And it's like, oh, cool, he's fighting against the power, another white guy, so it's all... And the first time they introduce a brother, what does he do?
He's a snake in the grass, yeah.
Exactly. He betrays his best friend and sells him out to the Empire. I mean, he was under pressure, but if he was really ride or die with Han Solo, he'd have been like, yeah, you ain't getting my boy, peace out. Eat this. And then, he dies, but he dies like a hero with his principles intact. Sure, he redeems himself, but he didn't need to be that way in the first place. So I mean, it's said those little things that as I got older, I began to really notice in geekdom, where it's just, oh, why can't you just even it out? And then when they started to, and they started giving roles to people of color, folks came out of the woodwork and lost their dang minds. Just like, why?
Yeah.
He can't be black. Perry White can't be black in the Superman movie because Perry White was white in the comic.
What? You know, it should only matter if it's integral to the character. Like, you can't go make Black Panther a white dude. That is
Yeah.
Right.
You can't make Storm
That's not gonna work.
You know, but it's
Right.
like if the character's written where their race has nothing to do with their powers or who they are or whatever, then it shouldn't matter. So if you want to, like, you could have taken Iron Fist. Like, if they did the guy that originally auditioned for Iron Fist, he ended up becoming like one of the villains that the white guy fought. And it's like, why can't you make Iron Fist Asian? It doesn't have to be a white dude. There's nothing in it that said he had to be white. He just was a rich, spoiled kid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, there's lots of rich spoiled kids. They could be anything.
yeah, it's just people. They're so inflexible and rigid. And every time they're like, when I hear something, they're going to announce some new movie or some new thing, and it's like they cast a Asian or black or
Well, like the
actor or
new thing with
actress.
Little Mermaid.
Yeah,
And they just threw a giant fit, and it's like, well, she's
Or-
a mermaid, and mermaids aren't real, so she doesn't really have an ethnicity or a race. So, just saying, she could be anybody.
I
People
recently-
had
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
people had a fit when they thought that Finn was going to be the Star Jedi in The Force Awakens.
Right,
Yeah,
she's
like
black.
because black people can't use the Force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did that
Even though they said nothing about Samuel L. Jackson.
See, Samuel L. Jackson's kind of transcended. He kind of gives off that air of like he doesn't give a damn. Like he's just gonna be Samuel Jackson in everything he does. And even the white folks are like, oh, he's cool.
Well,
The way
he's
he
cool.
says MFer, it's just so awesome. It's almost like he's been adopted, and you're like, no, geez, Sam.
Oh,
Oh, like,
love
Hey,
him.
he's a lot more gangster than you think.
So what is something that you think, I messaged you the other day and was asking you this personally on a personal level, but I'd like to kind of ask you this on the show and have you talk to some people out there. What are some things that you think that we should do or can do moving forward to be more anti-racist, maybe to bring Black Lives Matter into the geek culture or into what can we do to do our part?
Well, I think a lot of it is simple. You just first off, you listen to your friends that are people of color that are minorities, and what they think about things. Use your voice, speak up when you see like a superhero. When you see injustice, speak up. When you see a wrong, try to right it. I mean, not saying get out there and get yourself all jacked up or shot or anything, but use your voice, say something when you see things going awry. Educate yourself, learn about history, because there's a lot of stuff that happened throughout history that people aren't even aware of, like the Tulsa Massacre, where white people got mad and bombed Black Wall Street, basically bombed the town out of existence. This happened, I believe, 1921. There was a town that was black and prosperous, and it was just beautiful. White folks got mad, and they're like, "Well, we're going to blow them all up," and they did. The Rosewood Massacre. There's just been so many things throughout history that the history book does not tell you about. So you need to independently go and research. We, at this point in our history, have access to literally all recorded history of man at your fingertips whenever you want it. And all it takes for you is, you see something and you're like, get curious about it, type it up in Google or whatever. Something will come up, and then it'll guide you to Wikipedia or wherever you want to go.
No,
and you
you
find
can't
it.
go to Wikipedia. I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm a teacher. You
the
can't use
teacher's like,
Wikipedia.
no, because anyone can edit that. It's open source.
You
Okay,
can
well,
start at Wikipedia and then use that as your starting point to go
Well,
find
that's usually
other
where I
sources.
start. Then I click links, and I'm like, oh, cool. Then I go to Google and I start really searching for people. Like I watched a movie about Thurgood Marshall the other day, and I was like, oh, I got curious, and I was looking stuff up.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of documentaries that are on now, like Netflix and Amazon. They have really great ones. There's one on Amazon now called "I'm Not Your Negro," and it's based on a book, unfinished book by author James Baldwin. He's talking about his friends, Martin Luther King Jr., Emmett Till, and Malcolm X, who all got assassinated. It's really powerful. I mean, you just have to use your brain, use your mind,
And I think teachers have to do a better job. Just me being an educator, I just want to put that out there and say to the teachers that are watching, we have to do a better job. It's really easy when you teach English language arts, super easy to bring in all kinds of things that educate students about how Black Lives Matter and how not only, I liked a sign that I saw the other day that said, Black Lives Matter is the minimal. Black lives are cherished. Black lives are important. Black lives are meaningful. So, sorry, it makes me emotional.
No, it's okay. You can get emotional. It's an emotional thing.
It's
I get
emotional
emotional
time.
to it too. It's a crazy time in the world right now, and it brings out emotions in everybody. But I'm just like, you know what? Our skin, it's a gorgeous shade of brown. And it goes from light brown to super chocolate. Like, just if the guy was in the dark standing against the wall, if he smiled, all you'd see was teeth. He's so black, you know. But it's beautiful, you know. And it's just all it is a shade, man.
Yeah, and there's scientists and there's
we're
poets
not dirty.
and there's
We don't. It doesn't rub off.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's
politicians,
scientists.
there's mathematicians. Any subject that you teach a child, you can let them know that there are people of color that have made strides in all of these areas.
You know what I think a lot of it is you're a teacher, so you understand like textbooks and the curriculum and stuff that you're supposed to teach, and a lot of the stuff that people really should learn about history is not in the textbooks. Like
well,
there's
it's wrong
like
in the
you mentioned
textbooks.
like you mentioned a scientist, Katherine Johnson. People didn't really know about her to the movie Hidden Figures.
Right.
She was basically the NASA mathematician who did all the mathematical calculations to get the astronauts to the friggin' moon, dude.
Right.
She did it by hand. She was so good at it, they used the machine. IBM used the machine. She checked the machine.
She checked the machine. Yeah.
That's how awesome she was. And people, I mean, they don't really know about that. Like in the Tulsa Massacre stuff. I didn't know about it until I was an adult. And it was like, I remember watching The Watchmen, this TV show. And I'm like, what is this? I was thinking it was a made up thing. I was ashamed. And it happens in our community too. I was ashamed that I did not know about it. So once I found out about it, I read up on it. And we have to be aware of the horrendous things we've done to each other throughout our history, because it helps educate us on what we should be doing going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are getting mad, like, why are you going to remove all the Confederate statues and the flags and all the names from the bases? It's like, well, because the flag represents traitors, right? It was another nation's flag that they broke off from us. They became traitors. They broke away from the United States of America. We're going to form our own country. And they lost. The loser doesn't get to have participation trophies displayed on the winner's ground.
Right.
Now, a lot of people.
Bro. It's,
you
people
lost.
Like,
move on.
but how are we going to learn about history? You don't need a Robert E. Lee statue in Virginia to learn about history. You want to learn about Robert E. Lee? Open a book. Go to Google. Look it up. I'm sorry. One more thing. I did a public speaking class. I did a public speaking class last time I was going to college, and I did a speech about Arlington National Cemetery, and I found out some amazing things about Robert E. Lee. He was like the star general of the Union Army before he broke off and seceded with Virginia. His wife was like a descendant of Mary Eustace or George Washington's family, and they had, as part of, I guess, the dowry, been bequeathed the land where Arlington National Cemetery stands. And Lincoln was so pissed off with him that he's like, you know what? He took his land and he used it to establish the National Cemetery in like 1862.
Oh, really?
And I was like,
I didn't know
dope.
That's dope. That is dope.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's what happened. there should be punishment. You became a traitor to the United States of America. That stuff was punishable by death for a long time. And they get statues and a flag, and it's like the only time, and because I was a kid, the only time I, was like, cool, the Confederate flag was on top of the General Lee.
Dukes of Hazzard, baby.
Dukes of Hazzard. I know I'm a complicated person. I thought it was cool because it was a car. It was orange. It was jumping all over the place. I didn't understand the symbolism of the flag.
But they didn't really reference anything to that, though.
No, I just thought
in the show.
It's a cool name for a car, General Lee. I didn't know it was named after General Robert E. Lee. You know.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I mean, when I was a kid, I just thought they were cool, and
I just thought it was like the coolest car in the world.
Yeah, then they went to the movie a few years ago when they were driving around Georgia, and everyone's looking at them like, "Oh my God, racist! That's horrible!" And they're like, "What? What are you talking about?" Everyone saw the flag on top of their car, and they didn't even realize it. So it's a symbol that's long past.
Yeah,
it's context. I mean, if you want to save the flags, you can always display that stuff in a museum. But we're one nation now, and we have one flag, and that flag should be displayed. It should only be like the flags displayed as the United States flag and the state flags. I mean, other than that, it's like, come on, man.
So here,
change doesn't need to be this hard, but it always seems to be.
Here in San Antonio, we had some issues. The cenotaph which is right outside of the Alamo, was tagged.
That pissed me off.
And it doesn't. If people really research the Alamo and why the battle at the Alamo was significant, everybody thought they were heroes.
Oh yeah, they were just
what it was being
just white dudes trying to take land from Mexico.
Yeah, it was white dudes trying to take Mexico.
But it wasn't just that. It was also Mexico fighting against
westward expansion,
America,
states
because of slavery.
Yeah,
Mexico was against slavery.
Well, there's a lot of nations that abolished slavery long before we did. You know, we're just like, oh no, man, they're people. We don't need to. It's horrendous, you know. And you see a lot of modern day correlations to historical, like slavery when slaves were on display. They would display whole families, but they would break them up. Like, I only need the guy, and they'd send the wife off to another plantation and the children off to another one. It's like you fast forward hundreds of years to the whole immigration situation where they were just tearing families apart and putting the parents in one, cell, and putting the kids in another, and traumatizing these children. And these parents are like fraught for their kids. And it's like you're treating them like they're chattel and they're just cannon fodder.
Yeah, and a lot of them have come from horrible situations to try to come somewhere better, and then this is how they're treated.
Yeah, and I argued with my friend's parents, the Fox News watching folks,
right?
And they were just like,
immigration. There's just these Mexicans are just coming from everywhere. I don't understand. They should just do it legally.
I'm like, they did try to do it legally. That's excuse me. That's the process. You come, you ask for asylum. And some of them were trying to cross illegally, yeah, but it's like you ask for asylum, and you try to go through the legal route, but it takes so long. You're sitting there waiting for decades. People wait 15, 17 years to get a shot at citizenship.
Yeah, and we can barely understand the laws and some of the verbiage in this country, and we natively speak the language.
Right.
What about these poor people?
Think about this. Take the citizenship test, give it to someone who's actually a citizen, see if they can pass it, because I guarantee you they won't be able to.
No way.
Because we ask so much of our immigrants to come in this country legally, and we don't ask the same of the people who were born here. It's like you need a license to fish, a license to drive, you need a license to do all kinds of things. But like, you can just have kids if you want, but like if you want to adopt a kid, that's ridiculous. But any idiot can have a child, and just a child will have a horrible experience. It's ridiculous. We're doing it backwards.
All of our systems are
build a wall to keep them out. It's like, build a wall to keep them out. They're the ones, who are keeping this country running. You complain about, you can't complain about, blacks and Mexicans being lazy, and then complain in the same breath about us taking their jobs.
right?
Right.
Right. You got to pick one
'Cause-
side of the
Oh, we're
We're
taking
taking
all your
jobs.
jobs.
We're taking
Y'all
the
are so
jobs.
lazy.
You don't want to do. And that's
Mhm.
the way it's been throughout history. Except before, they enslaved us like, hey, we don't want to do this job. Let's get them. They look like they're strong.
Let's make them
And
do
then
it
they
and not
bred
give them
us.
any money.
And then they bred black people to be taller and stronger and faster because we were physical labor. You want your physical labor to be strong at the peak, physical condition.
Yep.
So people getting mad at athletes. LeBron James dunking on fools, Shaq ripping, backboards down and shattering glass, dominating, they're teabagging their white QB, like these guys are getting sacks like 6 times a game, and they're like, stupid black people, and they're kneeling, and I'm like, you know what? You're not complaining when the guys scored 4 touchdowns and ran for like 200 yards. You love him, but the minute he kneels to bring attention to something like his brothers and sisters are being murdered in the streets, and you're like, respect the flag. Like, do you realize? Have you actually heard more than the first stanza of the national anthem? There's a legit part in there where they talk about shooting runaway slaves,
And is this
singing about it.
Wow.
I mean, look it up. I mean,
is this giving a new perspective to a lot of people of what Kaepernick did? And I think it has.
it is because people are like, that light bulb is finally going off. Like, oh, people are like using their empathy and their ability to take their situation and see someone else's, and oh, gosh darn it, people finally were able to see themselves in the people who've been killed, George Floyd and Philando Castile and Breonna Taylor. The stuff shouldn't have taken this long because it should have been all common sense. Like, they broke into her, kicked down her door.
Kick down her door.
It was a no-knock warrant. They had the
Asleep.
wrong place. She was asleep. Her boyfriend was like thinking someone's breaking in, so he, self-defense. And then they wanted to charge him because he shot a cop, and he's like, "Well, you guys, I didn't know you were cops.
Yeah.
I mean, you should at least announce yourself, like police." I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
It frustrates me. What also frustrates me is that I just think we have to look at the whole picture because we have to handle the movement the right way. It's got to be civil, and it's got to be civil disobedience and protest without violence, because once the violence starts and happens, the message gets lost, and people who are using any excuse to blame minorities for something will use that. Oh, look, of course they're rioting. Look, it's Antifa. They're right. I was like, well, they're anti-fascist. Yeah, but they're just doing this. I'm like, no, man. If you're looking at the footage, most of the folks who are rioting, they're white folks, man. White folks riot. Black folks riot too. But white folks, when there's a riot, y'all riot. Burn stuff down. And it's unfortunately what happens is the neighborhoods that get burned down and get attacked it's always the minority businesses and the small businesses that suffer. So what happens is, like Ferguson, you get areas that after the protests and the rioting and everything, there's no economic development to come back in to fill the void to bring Ferguson back up. So now it's just in a worse position than it was before.
Well, and
I mean,
unfortunately,
fighting-
some of it ended up being young people, who just wanted to take advantage of the situation around them for their own, glee, right? To have their own purge night, basically.
There's always going to be an anarchist that's just going to be like, you know what, screw it, none of it matters, I'm just going to burn it all down. That happens with any kind of situation where there's civil disobedience.
I mean, it always comes down to good and bad. There's good police and there's bad police.
Yeah.
There's good people of color and there's bad people of color.
There's
good white people and there's bad white people.
I like this with Chris Rock when he says, I'm not going to say the word, he's like, there's black people and then and he says the N-word. And he's like, black people hate, you guys know the skit where I'm like, and it's hilarious because it's true. Like you said, Vince, you're a Latino, and it's just like, there are people you're like, stand-up folks, and they're badass, and there's folks you're like, God dang it, dude. You're making my people look bad, bro.
Don't make my people look bad.
It happens in everything, and it's like even within the minority community, we're racist and bigoted against ourselves a lot of times. Like the whole. I had a friend of mine who his stepdad was from Mexico. He's a Mexican national. You know, became a citizen, but he he hated his stepson because it was like. And my friend was like, "Well, I'm Mexican too," and he's like, "Nah, you're Mexican American. I'm Mexican." And once his mom died, he just disowned him and treated him horribly.
Mhm.
I'm like, I didn't get it. I don't understand. Why does he do that? And it's like he was like shrugging. He's like, it's just a thing, man, in our community. It happens in all communities.
Yeah.
Look at light skinned folks versus dark skinned black folks. We rip on each other all the time, and it's like, even like in Spike Lee movies, they're like, oh man, light skin ain't been in since '89. It's like the jokes, and you're like, they're funny at the time, but then you think about them at a deeper level. It's like, oh man, that kind of hurt my feelings.
This is just a time that we all need to get together and just get to know each other, and that's what's going to fix things. Is just to get to know everybody.
All it takes is some courage and to ask, and to just like Colleen did. She's like, I don't know, I feel awkward and weird, and what do I do? Do I still say hi to people? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, still be Colleen. You just, your teacher. All you gotta do is educate yourself. You don't know, you just ask.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want to be disrespectful. Like there's a lot of times, a lot of routines of things. When I used to spend the night over at my buddy's house, I'm like, they did things way different. I'm like, what do you mean? It was like the spaghetti. What do you put the sauce on top after? You're supposed to like mix it all together. So it's my mama don't do it like this. It's like Eddie Murphy. You're like, this ain't no McDonald's cheeseburger. It's just like it's the subtle differences that we all need to learn, and we need to like kind of celebrate and just kind of laugh about, make fun of ourselves. But it's but when you surround yourself with people that look like you, that are the same as you, you don't get the opportunity to grow and to learn and to be a broader citizen of the world.
Awesome. So how do people get to see you or hear you or get in contact with you?
You can hear me, the Geekfather, and a little bit Jennifer on our podcast, The Blurred Nerds. It comes on every other Saturday. It posts at, I believe, 12 noon. So you can find us on Facebook. We have a Twitter page at The Blurred Nerds. We're currently working on sponsorship. We're trying to get a sponsor. Just kind of something that fell in our lap. So we're working on that. So we're trying to get our viewership up and, get the word out and let people know, hey, we're here. You can hear us here. And you can follow me individually on Twitter at Choco Machismo. Greatest Twitter handle ever. I'm on Facebook as I have a Geekfather fan page, and I have my regular personal page if you want to like totally friend me there too. And I'll be doing a live stream of The Last of Us 2, the sequel to like literally my favorite video game of all time. I'll be doing that on Friday, Juneteenth, which is appropriate. So at 6 p.m. Central Time on Twitch. So you can just look up Twitch and search Geek Avengers and we'll pop right up.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I figured people go there instead of listening to the president in Tulsa on Juneteenth.
Perfect timing.
Like, why? Why would you pick Tulsa and why would you pick Juneteenth? It's like, well, it was on purpose. I'm like, sure it wasn't.
Sure it wasn't. Yeah.
You're not gonna tell me, make me believe that it wasn't. Somebody in the White House is like, hey, you want to really piss him off? So that's where you can find us. Our episode we just recorded today will post tomorrow.
Very good. Awesome.
We talk about much of the same stuff.
Well, it was really good talking to you. I really appreciate it. Had a very, very spirited, educational talk, and it was awesome, and I loved it. Thanks for checking us out. I really appreciate it. I'm Vince.
I'm Colleen, and that's Marcellus, and there's Stuart over there, and happy birthday to my dad.
Black Lives Matter.
Happy birthday, Dad. Black Lives Matter. Buy a Blurred Nerd t-shirt.
Do
it.
Do it. do, 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 do.